It's waffled on.
Hi. Those who don't know, I'm here to represent hundreds of my colleagues who are currently striking and in dispute with ESNEFT, who is the trust that covers Colchester and Ipswich and various other community sites dotted around Essex and Suffolk. We are fighting against the threat of privatisation and being outsourced to the lowest bidder. We're going on strike to protect ourselves from the cuts to our wages and the benefits you get from being part of the NHS, to protect our patients and the service they receive as part of it. To protect every one of us here, the taxpayers, from being screwed over yet again, just to line some shareholders' pockets. Our industrial action that first started in August has given more people a voice to stand up for themselves, individually and collectively as part of a movement and a union. One the trust has had to listen to just by the sheer strength of numbers that we have, both physically on the picket line every strike day and every one of us isn't on shift when they should be. A voice has always been ignored, forgotten, or just deemed not important enough by those at the top of our trust, simply because we represent the lowest paid workers in the workforce. But there are people that are proud to have the NHS badge on their uniforms and do it because they want to help people in whatever possible that their role allows.
Atrocities happening as it is happening now, and that's
as every one of us is not even a penny above minimum wage. To get any more than that, you have to work the most unsocial hours going. This means precious time away from your families, your loved ones, and your friends, just to get a semblance of an existence. Having been part of the now defunct Brilliant Health portfolio, we were brought back in-house to the NHS in the winter of 2012. So myself and the many colleagues that remain from those days know full well the stark difference between public and private sectors. Running on skeleton staff all the time and corners cut to save money in every single way you can possibly imagine. All the while making the patient experience worse in the name of creating a profit. Returning to being run by a company in the private sector means our unsocial enhancements are cut, our pensions will be frozen, and working conditions will decline as a result. This leads to driving people into further hardship and potentially onto the breadline when we're already the lowest paid workers in the trust as it is. This in turn affects our local economy, which obviously have less disposable money to spend on all but the most basic essential needs. The way forward that we see is to resist and fight further cuts and damage to our services and the communities that we all represent, and nationally is to have a more united approach from all the unions across the board. While we're fighting NHS outsourcing should be a whole trade union movement issue across all unions, and not just healthcare unions, but at its core, this is a fundamental working class issue that affects every single one of us. Having worked for 5 years for Carillion before our department was made part of the NHS again, I was well placed to see the standards of care with outsourcing and the marked difference being brought back into a public non-profit environment made. Privatisation absolutely and wholeheartedly degrades the high standards of the NHS. The NHS is under constant scrutiny by the politicians and the media for failing to deliver on its promises due to underfunding. But that's not what the mainstream narrative focuses on. This creates a vicious circle with further failing of the patients and demoralisation of the staff that serve them, leading inevitably to expanding demand for private healthcare under the guise of reform. However, there's always going to be a section of the population with the lowest incomes who will never be able to afford this private service should they need it. Outsourcing leads us all further down the road of the inevitable two-tier system that will arise as a result. Under the pretext of delivering efficiency, which is delivering the NHS in austerity measures, it actually does nothing to save money for the taxpayer. It just serves as an excuse to help in growing a for-profit sector that takes advantage of people's needs for decent healthcare. Or to find new markets for private companies. The NHS is something we've all used at some point in our lives, something we rely on in times of great need, something the UK can be rightly proud of. The NHS is an institution that was founded on proper socialist values of providing a safety net for those who couldn't afford any other adequate healthcare. The greatest legacy of any British government since the end of World War II, Labour has helped give birth to the NHS and the welfare state as we know it. They now need to prove they're going to protect it into its old age, as the alternative is a slow death by 1,000 cuts by privatisation. Without the generous donations of thousands of pounds from the general public, local Unison branches to us, and other unions as a whole to our strike pay and hardship fund, we couldn't have carried on fighting this far since the start of our strikes in August. And we've just completed our 19th day of strike action only last Friday. The backing that we've received both locally, and nationally from all corners of the country has inspired us to keep fighting to carry on striking for as long as it takes, deep into the winter and new year if need be. We realised very quickly there was a fresh Labour government in place that what happens with us could dictate the future of the NHS for the next 5 years and beyond, particularly if Labour are going to fulfil their pre-election promise of the greatest insourcing of a generation. Purely by chance or timing with the early general election in the summer, our dispute has now morphed into the ultimate litmus test of West Street and Labour for the direction of healthcare that we're heading to as a society. I can assure each and every one of you that cares in the NHS that there's still plenty of desire to fight and strike, as this dispute is of national importance now to the future of our health services. There's going to be no backing down from any of us, and we'll carry on fighting tooth and nail for as long as it takes. Unison at a national level have now also guaranteed at least another £500,000 worth of backing to go into our strike fund to enable us to keep on the picket lines for as long as is needed, which is the biggest indicator to those of us striking that they also think this is a fight we can and we will win. We have already just submitted plans on Monday to the Trust to go on strike for a further 3 solid weeks of action from the 25th of November to the 13th of December. And we have made contingency plans to do a lot more by going all out into the new year if the final board decision goes against us on the 5th of December. All the financial backing and support of Unison to help us do this. If you'd like to support us in our fight, you can sign a petition against it. It will get sent straight to the board of directors and the chief exec. You can leave a message of solidarity on our local Unison Eastern message board. Alternatively, you can also lobby our local MPs by clicking on a template to send an email straight to them. Finally, but most importantly, I'm here to represent all of my fellow soft facilities colleagues still striking at ESNEFT. The porters, the warsmen, the cleaners, the caterers, help desk, general office staff, goods receiving and the post room, all without whom the hospital fails to run smoothly, but have now been deemed expendable. Power to the strikers, and thanks for listening.